Welcome to the Tech on Toast podcast. My name is Chris Fletcher and I'm your host. Tech on Toast simplifies the way you buy and manage your hospitality tech. Do you need help untangling your tech? Head to our website, techontoast.community, and grab yourself a free tech audit. Find your next tech solution on a marketplace, attend our events, or simply say hello. We're here to help support the industry into the next generation. This podcast is brought to you today by Square. Picture this, all the tools you need to run your business seamlessly managed under one roof. From point-of-sale software and hardware to payments, Square's first-party solution integrates it all into one single dashboard. Beyond that, Square also offers team and inventory management, gift cards, and tools that will help you drive loyalty programs and marketing campaigns. So in a nutshell, Square streamlines your operation by pulling everything together under one roof as a single source of truth, helping you save time. Whether you're running a restaurant, cafe, bakery, bar, pub, or club, Square helps you simplify the way you do business and take payments. Square is trusted by over 4 million businesses globally. Get 20% off Square with Tech on Toast off countertop hardware with promo code SQUAREUK20. Visit square.com to use the promo code or to request to speak to one of our sales team. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the next episode of Tech on Toast podcast, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by Rod Schneider. Is it Schneider or Schneider?
Schneider. With
Rod Schneider. Yeah. And if you ever listen to this podcast, every week I get people's names wrong at the start.
Okay.
I just need someone to come on.
So this is just tradition?
Yeah, like Bob Smith would be really helpful, but none of you are helping. So anyway, welcome Rod Schneider, COO at Workforce, but also in Australia, Tanda.
That's right, Tanda.
So let's get Tanda out the way, because I just got explained.
Yes, Tanda, Tanda, originating with time and attendance, obviously. And that was our brand everywhere before we bought the workforce.com brand. So most people know us as workforce.com.
Yes, we do. But now we know about Tanda, that's good.
Exactly.
Only Tanda in Oz, is that right?
That's right. And you know, it's hard to get rid of because it's on top of our building there. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a statement.
If you're ever in Brisbane and you look at the skyline, you'll see Tanda. You won't forget it then.
Wow, okay. Yeah, well, it's very cool. Well, nice to meet you, mate. I've known you for a while. First time I met you, you gave me some socks at a trade show.
That's right.
I was with my old friend John Mason. He was moaning, just walking around being New Zealander miserable.
That's not the right stereotype way around, but okay.
Yeah, it's the wrong way around, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, normally he's like the happy chappy, like loves everyone calm. No. Hates humans. But no, John was walking around with me. We introduced each other, and we've been bumping into you ever since.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about you. Obviously, your journey. You're not from here, are you?
No, well picked up on. I can't.
Thanks, mate. I'm like a mad scientist. I pick up these accents. I'm so clever.
Exactly. So, been over in the UK for coming up 4 years, but originally from Brisbane in Australia, which is where the company was founded. And before joining the tech world as a financial advisor, and
really?
Before that, aspiring cricket player until I realised I couldn't get past reserve grade. I mean, that's all we ever wanted to do as kids, isn't it?
Literally, well, not here, apparently. It's football, I think. I don't know, but weirdly, last night in my house, this is totally irrelevant, but my son is called Shay, he's 17, and he's just been to Thorpe Park, to a theme park with his mate Steph yesterday. Steph is a very good cricketer, and at Bristol House of Sport, where he's being brought up to become a player for Glamorgan. And he's a great player, and he's been over in India this summer doing stuff. He's off to Australia next year to do another course out there, but he's only like 17, but they've got big plans for him. But he's very funny, very droll for a young lad, and but he was telling me about the salaries. I don't know if this is correct. There's different bandings for different salaries. Like, so at 100 you get like 150k a month for a week for 4 weeks or something. Yeah,
the salaries have skyrocketed since 2020 came in, and
right. Which is the exciting form of cricket.
Well, for most
to
people,
us people who've got no attention span.
For traditionalists like me, it's the other way around.
You love Test cricket, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I do too, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
Only when we're playing you.
Yeah.
It used to be great. It's not. I don't know. It doesn't feel as competitive as it used to be. It used to be really good. Lots of characters and.
Definitely less personalities, but still pretty competitive, I think.
Yeah, we don't get on in sport, do we? No. So, look, give us an overview of Workforce. So we got into a little bit with Tanda, explaining about what was in the name, but what does the product do? Give us your best pitch.
Yeah, sure. So we're ultimately a workforce management system who dedicated ourselves to solving the scheduling issue, and most importantly, I think the wider workforce friction issue. So the issue that employers and employees have when they're coming together, there's often lots of problems in the workplace, and we've spent the last more than a decade trying to solve that and make that as seamless as possible. So our purpose is to reduce employment friction for shift and hourly workers, and everything that we do stems from that.
And how long have you been around? How long has Workforce been around, or Tanda?
First invoice was in 2012. That's how we met. Well, the software was kicking around before that, but until someone pays for your software, we decide.
What's very interesting for me actually over the last 3 or 4 years is that obviously since the pandemic, a lot of tech popped up. Obviously, a lot of tableside tech popped up because it had to.
Yep.
But I think generally the hospitality tech lifted off, right? That's why we exist now, I suppose. And you've got, it's very rare actually in Workforce that you see a bit more legacy. So there's a lot of new players in your space, right, who are doing stuff. So you must have seen quite a lot of change over the years. I mean, it's a decade, right, of you guys being around, if not a little bit more.
Absolutely.
What have you seen that's been really impactful to you? Where do you see it kind of changing over the last few years?
Well, if we go back to why we started, our founders were running the university bar, and they actually, over the course of a year, the bar lost over $1 million. Now, how a university bar loses money is beyond me.
Because they were drunk.
But, well, it turned out it was for, there was a lot of, labour theft, shift fraud, people signing on for times when they weren't there.
Oh, that old chestnut, yeah.
Yeah, and the only alternative at that point was huge, machines with thousands and thousands of dollars for biometric scanning, and the founders of our company didn't want to pay for those to put up everywhere, so wrote version 1 of the software, which was a tablet linking into Google Sheets, because you could get a tablet for $80. And so these sorts of changes, I think, from around about that time, cloud computing's taking, just coming in. So I think that's defined the last 10 years, is this shift from old punch card, or...
Mate, it's still out there. Trust me. Every week I keep meeting people going, what?
We've got 2 photos that commonly get used in our office. One is from an old...
Just using your sales pictures.
Yeah. Well, one of them, there's a Holden, actually race car company that uses us back home, and when we first implemented there was the picture of the wall of time cards that was still there, and then our tablet next to it, which is the new system. It's like, don't use this anymore, use the tablet. And then there's another one of and we, I've seen this in the last year still, as well as the rotor, which is on the massive whiteboard, covering up the entire office. And again, a similar thing. That was how this company was doing it, week to week, on the whiteboard. Some of the times hadn't changed in years.
People can go up and smudge it and change their shift.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, I heard a story recently about someone who was still on the whiteboard, and they were taking photos of that and sending it out. And then if there was a change, unless someone's taken a photo, like someone has to go in and take a photo if they want
a
to
new
change.
photo.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Imagine your WhatsApp full of like 9 different photos because someone's changed it.
And someone trying to work out. So that unfortunately, I think they're the exception these days.
Yeah.
Than the rule.
Excel used to be on my bugbear when I used to run restaurants. Used to have Excel sheets on the wall, and you'd spend hours making this pretty Excel sheet to put your rotors on. But then someone would come up and just put a pen through it and can't work that, and write it on, literally write it on it, and then you'd have this chaos. I can only describe scheduling as chaos throughout the 90s and the noughties. It was just a nightmare. We couldn't get anything right, and God knows how people delivered labour cost. I just don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
And on that note, your guys' job, I suppose, your product's job, is to kind of optimise, drive profit back down to where it should be, and keep these people in check who are kind of working in, I suppose, any customer-facing, not just hospitality, or are you kind of across the board retail as well?
We do a lot of retail and quick service retail.
Right.
The suite changes. I shouldn't say changes, but it translates very well between quick service retail and hospitality. I think the driving focus for us is shift and hourly workers, and if it's not a problem for shift and hourly workers, then we'll put it to one side.
Right, okay.
And someone else can solve that. What that means is, for a large part of the world, quick service retail, fast food, hospitality businesses a very good fit, but also in some other industries like in the UK, particularly care.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Care seems to be creeping into our world at Tech on Toast a little bit. Very recently, my dad owns some care homes, or he's the chairman of like some care homes up in the northwest of England. Abbeyfield, they're called. I don't know if you've heard of them. Yeah, you have you? Oh, right, okay. I know who uses them. I know who he uses.
There you go.
Because he brought it up when I saw him last week. But anyway, so yeah, but their issues are our issues, right?
Yep.
And I was talking to him, particularly in F&B, feeding people, rooms, all that. It all sounds very familiar to me from my career. So I think, and he struggles. I think tech is starting to infiltrate that industry in a good way.
Yeah,
and really help people.
We see a lot more of those cases that we were talking about before, where there's the whiteboard and that sort of thing.
That's my dad.
We see far more of that in care. I think the hospitality industry more broadly has done a far better job of...
Well, we're younger as well, right? That actually there's a lot of new business coming around in hospitality more than there would be new care. That sounds stupid actually, because you probably need more care homes popping up than more restaurants, I would imagine. But I don't know. I don't know how that well works. But I imagine that there's a bit of legacy in like the fact that he's a chairman with a board of directors. I can't even imagine selling into him. What a nightmare that would be. Trying to do a demo to him would be horrific. You'd need your little punch cards to explain, this is where we've come from and this is where we're going. So I can kind of see their issues being our issues, and you guys been able to fix that. I suppose how much can you help these companies though in terms of optimizing their cost, and I suppose the product can and help them kind of understanding what they're spending and what's then, I suppose, what efficiency looks like. Is that the right way to look at it, or productivity?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it is as simple as getting the right amount of staff on for your time. And I think some people look at that as very punitive, but also that's a big revenue driver when you don't have enough people on to take the money when you've got the queues out the door. You don't want people leaving, you don't want people going.
I think we forget the basics really quickly. From when I was doing it, you focus on having a nice pretty rotor and whatever, getting it all right. But the reality is, cut everything away. You need the aces in places, we used to call it. You need the right people in the right place at the right time.
Yep.
So and that was the one thing sometimes I think gets forgotten when we're buying tech or we're looking at it. So yeah, it's really interesting you say that actually that's one of your main focuses or main drivers.
Absolutely, and making that as easy to see for everyone as possible. So there's a few areas where we focus. It's not just that, but getting the right labour wage percentage is crucial.
Yeah.
Other businesses will measure that as sales per man hour, and just making sure that it's enough. That saving can be 5-6% of your labour budget. Now, when that's anywhere between 25 and 40% of your costs, that's a really big saving.
Yeah.
So in the studies we've done, we did a study across 7 of our larger customers, and the payback on our software was 4.5 times what you pay, so 450%. So for every pound you invested, you would return that. Across those, 60% of that was in labour savings, but there were other savings in the speed of generating schedules and getting those schedules right, which averaged around 20%. And then other things like just general back office compliance, 10%, or payroll processing, another 10% of savings. So there's a lot of things we can do to save and cut that administration cost and dead money out of you.
And it's almost like a consultation, right, isn't it? In a way that you're kind of saying, look, we're here, we're looking at your workforce. Excuse the pun.
Yep.
That's why you did it, right? It's very clever. It's very clever. So clever. But we're looking at your workforce, and I say that word about 10 times a day, you know that. You're welcome.
Just start substituting it with workforce.com and then we'll be fine.
So and you're kind of saying this is what your workforce looks like, this is how you manage them, this is how you schedule them, and this is how you pay them, and the compliance bit that wraps around it. And I think it's a massive consultative piece, because you said that and food costs are our 2 major drivers, right? Of
exactly.
Not having profit, or not having enough profit as it would be, or having enough profit. And I think when we really focus on them, because revenue will, I actually think this drives the revenue. My personal opinion is that if you have right people, right place, right time, that actually the revenue looks after itself. You let the marketing and the product people do that bit, and you, the operations people where I used to live, you really focus on getting that bit right. And if you can get that right, actually the rest of it just kind of ticks along and looks after itself. But it's not easy, right? Otherwise we wouldn't all be trying to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to focus on that revenue piece as well, and how much money can you get in the door when the customers are there, because working and living around London, I see it quite a bit where the lines are so long that people go to the next place.
Yeah, and it's peaks, isn't it? I think we're really poor at managing peaks potentially, and not understanding, I suppose, how brave you could be in that peak, and then how savage is not the right word, but how tough you need to be in those troughs where you haven't got the revenue there, and it's easier said than done, because I know the shift patterns and contracts and all this kind of stuff. But that's really where you win, isn't it? By those big shoulders, as I call them, where you get those big shoulders of business, really delivering on that and then ripping it right back for the quiet bit.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes to problems that we solve for people, and we're talking about the workforce, it's one of our fundamental belief is that the more people are engaged in productive, meaningful work, the better the world we live in, and that goes for the better your place of employment is too. So staff want to be engaged in their job, and they don't want to be sitting around. That's great for the first hour, and then it's pretty boring to work a shift where you got nothing to do.
My friend said to me today, "I'm going to work, I hate it." That was the words that they said to me. She said to me today, because she works in a department store on a makeup counter, right? And she said, you walk past those things. Maybe you go to them, I don't know. But you walk past them when you're heading through these department stores, and you see there must be so much lag time in those places. And she said, I stand for 8 hours a day. I probably interact with 4 customers. He said, but those 4 could be worth X amount. So I'm really encouraged to be bubbly, happy. But how hard is that? For 8 hours going, really happy. There's no one here. So I kind of see it. I think it's a big challenge.
So if you think about the sorts of things our customers have been saying to us about how hard it is to attract staff and how hard it is to keep staff, this engagement piece of the employees while they're at work is really important for that, because it's contagious. A place that people want to work, a place that people is busy, where they've got something to do, that will filter through and ensure that they want to be there. And there's other things that we see this as part of our role as well. How can we make it easy for the employer to let their staff know when shifts are available, so they can come in and they can get that extra money, right? Cost of living is a big issue. We want to know. We want to make it easy for them to pick up shifts. We want to make it as easy as possible for the employees, for the employers to schedule properly, so that their employees are doing some meaningful work while they are there. And just going through all these examples of where there's friction in the workplace, like why do employees get frustrated with their employers, or conversely, why do employers get frustrated with hiring people and go, oh, well, it's all too hard to hire more people.
And this is why I love doing this thing, right? Because the depth you've just gone into that answer in terms of engagement and why people, all the stuff you just explained actually. And a lot of people will see you as a product, right? They'll see workforce.com, we buy it, we plug it in, we do our scheduling. But this is why the podcast exists, to actually explain that the people behind the product are really, really invested in actually not even their product per se, but more about what your business can do with the right management of that area. So I just think it's really crucial that sometimes when people tune in and listen to that kind of stuff, say, okay, but that actually matters to me, because I think relationships and the reason the people that work within these products are probably 9 times out of 10 more important than everything else. Just because you're going to impact their business, right, with your sale.
Absolutely. I think that's really important for me. That's why it's part of the reason why I've been with the company for 8 years now, is because that philosophy is set by our founders. Talk to customers has been a value of our company from the day I was there, and it's still a value now. Our engineers in the UK go through rotations where they're working on the support line and seeing the problems that come in. So if you're an engineer that wants to hide away from customers, don't apply for a job at workforce.com, because that's not who we are. That's not what we're about. We want to get as close to our customers as possible and invest in understanding what they want to do. And a common tech problem will, a query will come in, a request will come in saying, oh, we need this line in a report here, or we need this button there. And part of the challenge is training our staff to have the conversation of why.
Not just, no problem.
Well, why are people asking for that? And I know that customers can be frustrated about those questions too, because it's like, why are you asking? But we really like the customers that engage in those conversations, because if we can understand what they're trying to do, then we can come up with a good solution. And it might be that one customer's asking for a column in a report here, and one customer's asking for a button on a rotor here. They're actually trying to solve the same problem.
Yeah.
And if we understand the problem that they're trying to solve, then we can deliver a solution that all of our clients can benefit from.
I think it's very interesting the way different customers will use your product in different ways.
Oh.
Because I don't have a tech product, but I imagine if I did, that would drive me mad. But actually, it's the best learning ever, right? They say give a kid a toy and they'll show you 5 different ways to use it, right? 5 different kids will use it in 5 different ways with their imagination. Yep. And I think that actually operators, the reason they're operators, they're great at fixing problems, right? They're great at making shortcuts. They're great at getting to a situation quicker.
It's fantastic, and we learn so much from that conversation, and that's why we just love having customers who are keen enough to get on the phone and spend a bit of time and explain that to us. One of the best examples of that, Chris, is when we've got the ability for staff when they clock in or out to prompt them to answer questions.
Right.
And we did that. It was actually coming from a more punitive place, if you like. It was to get explanations about why people are clocking in early or late for shifts, and to allow the employee to give a bit of detail, like my manager asked me to start early, or
Sandra's late, I had to go early.
I just generally ran late. What we found is one of the customers took that ability to start using, they had a requirement in their business, the declaration that people weren't under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So they adopted that, and rather than having a logbook where people were signing off on this every day, they included a question and put that in.
Are you hammered?
Pretty much, yeah. But they had that, and that solved a big paperwork and HR problem that someone was maintaining a logbook.
It's so smart, isn't it? And I'm sure you guys, when you built that functionality, weren't thinking that's how it'll be used.
No.
Right?
No. So, and from that, we took that. That was actually before COVID, and from that, going into COVID, where everyone needed to have their declarations about not being in contact, tracing contact. We were able to say, we sent out a blast to all clients and saying, hey, for those of you that are operating through this is what we recommend. Here's a suggestion. So that's come from a client using a feature of ours, a way we didn't expect, but we had the conversation with them, and then we were able to deliver a solution.
I love that. It's like that sickler feedback, right? And if you don't listen, I mean, I'm sure there's a Steve Jobs quote somewhere about this, but I'm sure, if you don't listen to what they're saying, it's the same in tech as well as running Brewdog, right? If you don't listen to what the customers tell you, or the way they're behaving and what they're doing, the buttons they're pressing, the features they're not using, then you're going to die really quick, right? Or you're going to end up with what you've got, which is kind of, no one wants that, everyone wants to grow. So I find it fascinating. What kind of problems are they facing? You mentioned recruitment and all that kind of stuff. What are the biggest challenges these guys are tending to face at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think that costs and the retention of staff, or attraction and retention of staff, are the two main ones that we hear. Like, most problems, even if they're not exactly that, can be boiled into a subset of that, right? So we are looking at, continually looking at productivity measures and what we can do there. I think everyone likes rolling out their AI algorithms for scheduling at the moment. I think it was really beneficial to us that Domino's back in 2016 brought us into doing that for them, and since then we've worked with multiple algorithm providers, and that's just, people can be as creative or as intense about that as they want, or they can be hands off and just go, look.
What's the general? Because I'm really interested. AI, I think, is really exciting. There's loads of cool stuff that's going to come, I'm sure. But it's very use case dependent, I think.
Absolutely.
At the moment, it's not something you just slap over everything. It's not going to work, right? And do you find more customers are just more interested about managing their labour cost? I know you can't. This is a sweeping statement, but is that more of the want and the need due to being time poor, all the problems they're facing, all that kind of stuff? Or are people being is the majority being progressive or trying to be progressive?
No, I think I wouldn't necessarily characterize the people like that are worried about labour costs as not progressive, because I think there's a genuine...
Yeah, I just did overlay half the industry.
No,
sorry, guys.
But I do think there's a genuine, need there for getting, they want to maximise it when the opportunity's there. We generally see people go into two camps. If you can get at the small medium enterprise, you want to get as much as many wins as you can from as quick a entry point. So if that's just the POS data and looking back at your history and get a fast solution, that's typically what it is. At the enterprise level, you'll get people with more data streams and more resources to try and...
Yeah, like enterprise, I get it. They're like rocket scientists, right? They want to know everything. They want to know why the sun was shining in Bristol and not in Cardiff and whatever it might be. I was with a guy last week, and everyone will know who it was because I just write it about on LinkedIn every day. But I was with a guy last week who runs a pizza chain. He's just got 4 sites, and he was talking about reporting, and he uses Square, right, POS, and he said, and I was talking about the other POS guys, I was saying, you're going to look for something a bit, like I suppose I call it enterprise POS. I don't even know what I was talking about. But anyway, he was just like, I just don't know why I would, because I just need that report. I need the end of day report. Yeah. That's what he called it. I just need the end of day report. And I was like, okay. And it's just interesting that in our heads sometimes we think, oh, these feature-rich products got everything, we've got all these cool things, but sometimes when it goes down to the man on the ground, the reality is they just want to run their business, run it well, and understand what's going on, and have a little look down the road, right, and see what's coming in terms of forecasting, and if AI can help there, even better kind of thing. So, but it's that, and the compliance thing was really important too.
I would really caution against thinking that it's going to be a be-all and end-all, and it's no substitute for the traditional review of what happened, and actually getting the manager's hands dirty to look at why a day went the way it did. So we've got the ability to go back through and look at the wage and the sales over the course of a day. And some of our most proactive clients will managers of sites will use this with their staff to go, well, this is a day where it blew out.
Yeah, last Wednesday, blah, blah, blah.
We can see 15 minutes by 15 minutes. Let's have a look at where it did, and let's try and work out why we did so it doesn't happen next time.
That is one thing I always advocate for, that the relevance of reporting. So a really good example of a general manager there taking his team, having a team meeting and saying, look guys, Wednesday, last December, we really screwed it up on the Black Friday week, right? We were just totally hammered, we didn't have enough people on, this is what happened, we worked it out. This year we were doing it this way. And in that scenario, I think it's absolutely crucial. The problem is sometimes when reporting gets pushed down onto people that's not relevant for or not interesting for, and they tend up just getting lost in data. But I love that example because it's really relevant to what they've actually done, and people will have an experience going, oh, I know, I was on that shift, I get it, I saw that happen. So that's where tech and human ability comes together quite nicely, but it's not always like that.
Yeah, you remind me of our head of hospitality in Australia was actually a operator for 20 years and a client of ours for 5 before we convinced him to
drugged him.
Convinced him that 9 to 5 was going to suit him better.
It comes to us all, my friend.
And it was interesting. It's been really helpful. He talked to us about our shift feedback report. So another way that we're helping employers keep their employees engaged is there's the ability to use shift feedback.
Yeah, I love that.
And they will. And we actually do a bit of we've done a few word clouds on some decks of some of the funnier feedback. And then also some of the more...
Is that like an end of day report then? Or because we used to call it BHR in colleges, right? It was the business happening report or business happened report. What a weird name.
Most people use that one on the standard one is on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But he was using it when he was in operations as the same way you would, is that they would sit down at their meeting on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they would review all of the feedback and they'd go through it. And there was some of it that they knew was just someone having a bad day. Our favourite is like so-and-so's a warlord and someone needs to tell him he's not king of the world or something like this.
Is this feedback from the team or from customers?
That's from the employees, right? And the managers.
Maybe one of my employees, I'm not sure. Chris was a warlord.
Chris needs to stop being so. Yeah. So they were able though to look at those and have a lens of what is reasonable and what is the really actionable stuff that we can go through and implement. And if we come back to the question you asked before about these challenges that businesses are having, if you can show an employee when they do genuinely go out of their way to leave decent feedback, but you're actioning that feedback,
100%.
that does a lot for maintaining the culture. So workforce can't actually do that for you, but what we can do is give you all the tools to be able to keep your staff engaged and take that feedback on and run a better business.
Yeah, I think the feedback is historically poor in within restaurants and bars, just because of the time, this pace we move at. And generally, I think the want to do it properly, as in not the operators don't want to do it properly, but the tech just wasn't there for a long time in terms of. So we had internal Google Forms, whatever we used to use,
or a suggestion
napkins.
box or something.
I've done that. Yes, we had actually in Hard Rock Cafe in Cardiff, we had something called the Stairway to Heaven. So bear with me here. I made this up. It was very cool. So it didn't really work well. I ended up with HR. But so the Stairway to Heaven, my office was at the top of the stairs, and the restaurant was at the bottom of the stairs. So I used to put the server's name on blue tack all the way up the stairs, depending on where I rated them.
Yeah.
And the way I measured that was really poor. There was very, like, if someone dug into my algorithm, I was a bit like UEFA. I was just making it up as I went along.
Very transparent though, Chris.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the girls who work for me, one of them is now my wife. She was like bottom of the Stairway to Heaven for a long time. So yeah. But it was just, there was all, if you were one of those guys and you were trying to innovate, find ways to kind of just bring people along with you. That's all it's ever been about for me, just bringing people along, because the art of leading, I think, is just to be able to convince people to do what they don't want to do, but in a way that matters to them. So that's what I spent my life doing, right? Just engaging people, going, look, I know you don't really want to do this, but actually, if we do it together, it's going to be great. Yeah. But those kind of things were living all over the place, right? The Stairway to Heavens things, that there was tracking walls all over the place, and I think it's taken time to get that right. But I feel like recently that people are starting to gather great feedback, some great tech now coming in to help with that as well. So I find that really interesting. The engagement part is huge.
Yeah, and it's not just at the frontline level either. It's also at the manager level, and often that's the more important talent. Like finding a really good venue manager or general manager. And keeping them around can be really tough.
They're the single most important person in the business. My venue GM, that kind of role, because when they change, it all changes, good or bad. But you'll definitely get change when they leave. So it's about how do you manage that process? What does the backfill look like? And knowing when they're going to go is also quite important.
Yeah. So some of the feedback that we've gotten is that if those people have targets that is often based around things like wage percentage of revenue or sales per labour hour. So what we need to do is make it really easy for them to know how they're tracking against those targets. And I was talking to a hospitality recruiter who said that it's so competitive at the moment that some people are actually asking what software the business uses and do they have the ability to change that, because if they're going to be KPI'd on a wage percentage of revenue, I want a system where I can accurately see my wage percentage of revenue.
Yeah, I wonder how much tech is coming into play in that world, in terms of if you work at Brewdog and you've got a certain tech stack and you're moving to, oh God, I'm going to get in trouble here, Arc Inspirations, for instance, if their tech stack doesn't quite match up to the other one, do you think it will influence what people do, or do you think it's not that important?
Well, you said that the general manager or the venue manager, that person can be the single most important person. So having a software that person is happy with and is confident with can actually be influential depending on the business. And so if they're really confident and you want to give them the autonomy to run the business as yours, make those sorts of decisions, we definitely do see businesses where they do have that.
And there's some trauma, right, attached to poor choices of tech, I'm sure, for these guys that work with poor EPOS or poor whatever, in the past, that they're like, oh God, no, you've got that. I don't know if I want to go back there again, which is funny and quite frightening.
Well, if you're, this is what that recruiter was saying to me. If you're a experienced GM and you've got 3 offers on the table, and one of them is using legacy Y, and one of them is using something that you can deal with and work with, that does influence the decision if it's a even money split of where you're gonna go.
No, I like that. I think it's true. And on you guys, and we mentioned compliance a little bit there, I presume you integrate into compliance partners and HR partners, and in terms of payroll, is that something you're going to look after yourself one day, or are you kind of doing both?
Well,
see how I did that?
Yeah. No, well, we definitely are. We've had some really good HR and payroll integrations over the journey, which has allowed us to focus on solving these issues that we've been talking about first scheduling and the employee app and engagement of the general workforce management. The thing that we've found over time is that we crept so far into the HR section where we were being used by businesses as their HR and workforce management solution.
It must be really hard not to get into that if you're doing scheduling, because you're literally dealing with people's lives.
Yeah, well, the big moment for us was when our employee onboarding, and we got to a spot where, particularly in the UK, we were ahead of the game of winning business because of our onboarding in combination with our workforce management. If you're onboarding staff, that gave particularly a lot of SMEs the ability to go, well, I can hold all my employment documents with you, I can onboard with you, I actually don't need a HR solution. So part of the journey over the last year or two for us has been, well, what else do we need to flesh that out? So we've come to market with a HR solution now, but we don't want to, we're still supporting those companies that we work with, because...
So I'm going to say it's like a module thing, so you can buy bits if you want to.
Yeah, well, we separated that to HR and workforce management because we want to support those legacy customers and those customers who have systems that they use that they really like, who've been partners of ours. There's no reason to disrupt that.
And when we do a tech stack review, one of the first questions we ask is, what's the red line? So like, what do you really love in your tech stack? What do you not want to get rid of? And often it might be one of those products, right? That could be a POS, very rarely. No one loves it. It's just one of those things. But it could be like, it could be an ATS. It could be something like that they're using. They're like, oh, look, we just need to keep that because everybody knows it. Everyone loves it. So it is interesting that you guys have that flexibility, because it's cool. And what about payroll? Because payroll seems to me like this secret world. I don't know many. I'm probably going to get shot down now. Look, there's 25 of them, Chris. But a lot of payroll solutions are done by accountancy firms or who use Pay, whatever, right? You use other solutions, but obviously we know Simon at Pay Captain. But apart from that, like, I struggle to find like a SaaS type pay solution. Obviously, some of the workforce guys have it. Is that a route you're going to go down eventually, or are you kind of looking at it?
Yeah, absolutely. So our payroll solution will be out this year, and it was driven by how long we've been in the UK now, 9 years of running up against this same wall of the bureaus and the mystique and the outsourcing.
Why is it like that? Is it because you make so much money? I don't know.
It's a little bit of that. Or is it
more compliance?
No, and I'll put my foot in it now too, and we can both get hammered by all the people we're about to upset. But it does it's very different in the UK from Australia, where I'm from, in this regard, and there is culturally, at least 50% of businesses are outsourcing this because they don't want to deal with that. What has happened is that there's a number, and I'm not putting everyone in this bracket because we work with quite a few good ones.
We're just having an open chat.
Exactly, but there is a number out there, and we run into this a lot, who have realised that employers are happy to just get the payroll piece off their desk, and they will pay 4 or 5 times the cost of our software. Just to have someone else do that, and that market out
because they've been burnt, right, and because they've tried it themselves, or they've had an internal. At Prime Minister, I always talk about this lady. We had an internal lady, South African lady, who used to run our payroll, who was amazing. I mean, she was like part of the fabric, right, in that company. Just great lady, but totally inadequately supported in terms of what she did. Totally responsible for every single, including the founder's pay packet every week or every month. Which I found a pressure for a 65-year-old lady was, at that time, was just not right. So, and I think in a lot of businesses they have I'm going to call her Rita. They have a Rita, and a lot of these businesses who have a Rita who's responsible for payroll, and then they will use Sage or one of the plugins, right? So they're going to use one of those. And I think they're having problems. And a minute maternity
and then Rita retires.
Oh, it can't happen. She can't retire. Because no one has time to really sit there and go, okay, let's train up Rita's replacement over the next 5 years and get them. It's just, and also it's a spreadsheet she's using.
Yeah.
And the spreadsheet breaks and it makes, you make mistakes and she has a bad day and misses one digit.
Yeah.
And it throws the whole thing into chaos. And I think holiday pay and maternity and stuff like that, or especially now with the flexible workforce, it's super complicated.
Yeah.
And for anyone.
Holiday pay in the
Doesn't
UK
work.
is the one thing that
Why is it so difficult?
Oh,
All my life I've battled against it. I don't know why.
Someone needs to, because every time they fiddle with it to try and make it fairer, they make it more complicated.
Yeah.
It actually needs to have a line go through it and start from scratch.
Is there not a statute though, or something that says this is what holiday, or can it be decided by individual?
Yeah, well, unfortunately for people like us, I say unfortunately, but also fortunately for some business owners, the alternative is you get someone like Australia where we have a fair work commission who just goes out there suing every business who's got it out by a few cents.
Really?
And I feel sorry for a lot of those businesses because the legislation they're trying to follow is so hard that when we ask for interpretations, we will often on different days get two different answers.
I think we are explaining here why there are so few payroll solutions in terms of
Well, I think there's plenty there, but I do think that there are lots of people, from what we've seen, there's lots of people getting overcharged by bureaus and getting overcharged for doing manual data entry that doesn't need to be done if you're operating with a cloud solution. And this is something that is ripe for disruption, and that we're going to tackle it head on when we release our payroll solution and try and make it as easy as possible for people, and to unpack this black box so you don't need the Rita. And
it's really interesting. So
Rita risk is going to be taken
Rita
out.
can have a break. You have to for you. And I was talking to Ollie from Pete's Pilgrims the other week, and they built Joshua. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Yes.
The AI friend. And my son, as everybody again is bored of hearing, is working at Pete's Pilgrims, and he uses Joshua daily, right? So he'll say, "Oh, how much holiday have I got this week?" or "How much holiday have I taken? How much is my allowance?" And it's ping, ping. It's very interesting. And I think the pressure they're taking off their HR team. Now, obviously, there's a need for development. They'll have to end up running their own tech company at this point. At some point, but that pressure removed from HR people who should be doing recruitment, dealing with the problems you talked about in terms of engaging and attracting. They spend their time replying to employees.
We have that exact case from a coffee chain in South London.
Really?
Where implementing our system, the amount of queries coming through about their payroll and about their hiring just took a load off this person who was part-time but working full-time because she couldn't afford to because she was getting so
another
many
Rita.
And exactly, but most of the queries were things like, why was I paid this much instead of this much? Well, once they implemented our system, they could see which hours they'd work, they could see what was approved, they could do the calculations themselves, and literally days less of queries.
I think it's tax codes. Tax codes are young people. They are below their minds, right? These kids have grown up with the iPhone in their hand, and some weird dude in some massive office in the middle of the UK is going, "You're now TX42441. This means you can have 5p, and then we take 25p and give you it back in April." What? It just makes no sense. It's no transparency. It's so bad. I mean, it's better than it was when I was young because you can type it into Google and find out what your tax code should be. But Shay, my boy, said to me, "What is BR?" I went, "Oh, that's bad. That's like best. That's because you got two jobs, mate. They're taking money off you." But but I think that level of understanding for us, for my era, you never found out. You just kind of went with it. You just trusted that payroll was right. But this era they're not like that. They want to know. They want to know why you took £5 from them and where it's gone and what you've done with it, and have you built a secret state in the background to take over the world. That's where they're at. And I think that transparency is desperately needed, and stuff like the Joshua tool they've got in Peter Pilgrims looks amazing, and what you're doing. I think just that being able to give back information really quickly is so important to this generation, because as you said right at the start, these kids want to work. They don't want to hang about, they don't want to be lazy, they're not interested in spending 9 hours for a 2-hour shift. They just want to get in, do the work, get out and go and take an Instagram picture on an island. But that's their life, right? That's the way they are.
Sweet don't blame it. No. But I think that's totally fair. The other thing is that, there's no reason that's possible, right? That's what is actually possible at the moment, so that's the expectation. So the question we keep asking is how do we make that easier for employers to give that environment to their employees.
And if they can't, if an employee's listening to this, sit down and work out how much feedback is going to the field and from the field back to the office in terms of payroll alone. Just look at payroll alone and work out how much time you're actually investing through a paid employee to manage that work, because I think it's huge in every business. I mean, I'm sure some of the enterprise guys have got it down, but I imagine the bigger the payroll, the more questions you ask, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Even if they're doing a good job, I think it's interesting. So anyway, yeah, I think that's really interesting what you guys are doing. And when's it out? Later this year, did you say?
Yeah, it'll be this year. I mean, we've got to deal with HMRC, so that's the only unknown left in the box. Yeah.
TK42147. Yeah, and then you'll be in a holding call of 448 people. Well, yeah, I used to worry about my tax all the time when I became self-employed. I used to panic about it. Then I realised there's people stealing 10 million a week, so I thought, you know what, maybe my £1,000 over the last 4 years isn't too bad.
Yeah, they're probably not dragging you before the courts.
Not yet, not till they hear this episode. Right, and we talked about flexibility a little bit there, about how people expect a different way of working now, and we have covered this a little bit, but just managing remote workforces has become reality since the pandemic, and a little bit before probably, I would say, but much more so now. I was talking to someone the other day who applied for a job with us, and they want to work 4 days from home, 1 day on the moon, it's just a different world, and I'm cool with it now. I've had my say and I've had my piece of it. But how are you guys helping manage that? Because it's the thing now, isn't it? Right? I mean, most of your team will work remotely, I imagine.
Yeah, no, but
no?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, again, I mean, to address
You've
that,
got them in the office.
Yeah, I mean, for us, in the same way it is with working with our clients and getting as much face time with that, it's the same with our team, and we feel like we all learn a lot from each other, and when we're around, so we're a little contrarian in that regard.
That's interesting though, isn't it? Because a lot of people didn't do that after the pandemic, did they? A lot of people left their workforce out remotely.
Yeah.
And I also agree that it will make a difference, because just being around people, like having a face-to-face podcast versus a video one, very different outcome.
Yeah. There's lots of examples of that. I think of an article that was written back in Australia for live entertainment, and a person who people thought would be very pro remote work, saying the young people coming through, it's going to be so much harder. So much of this is about relationships, and you have to be there and you have to be present. And for young people trying to come through, they're not going to get.
It's been really hard, right? Being young and working like on your own, like just literally.
In an industry particularly in an industry like live entertainment, where so much of it is based on people and relationships, but so much of it you have to see happen,
feel it,
and you to know what's going on. So we got a slightly, internally a different attitude to that, but in terms of what we're doing to help others, I feel like that's that's instinctive and native in the product that we are. Like, where our mission was always to help shift and hourly workers, and a number of those shift and hourly workers need to travel. So at the same time as we were solving the employee app and the transparency of all that information, comes the ability for employees to manage their times in their pocket as well. And some people find that, it's an interesting conversation, because some people find that they're scared of having that conversation with their workers, but I think it speaks to trust both ways. If you're trusting 100%. If you're trusting the employee to clock in and submit their timesheets, it's actually a very positive and empowering thing. And if you're worried about that, I think you need to think about the way you're framing that conversation, right? They're obviously not that happy with you in the first place. If you're going to give them that autonomy to submit their own, because this is essentially what they're doing, submitting their own timesheets anywhere, any place they want from their phone. That seems like a pretty good solution to me, and a flexible employer.
And as I say, an empowerment, right? Rather than this constant push down, well, not constant anymore actually, but the old days of pushing down information, or you must do this, we'll do it for you. Rita will do it.
Exactly. So I think it should be an empowering thing to say, look, we've got the tool that shows you the documents. It can have learning materials, it can have whatever you need to, in the app that's in your hand to do your job. So I think that's vitally important, particularly for frontline workers and people who may be at this site today and another site tomorrow, and then there's a training over here.
Especially down here, right? And when we had college, when I was in college, we probably had about 45 sites, maybe, and I'm probably getting this wrong, but we had a lot in London, probably in every suburb, right? And they all moved around. I mean, West London, it was just like they literally did an hour here, next door, taking food. I mean, it wasn't just that, it was ingredients and people moving around everywhere. And it was horrific to manage. It was so hard work. I mean, Forth were our supplier at the time. It was very hard to manage multi-shift. In fact, I think they built that for us at that point, because we would make it was just a financial car crash because we just couldn't pay people right and get it right. But obviously, the need to do that in a city like London, where you can move people between sites at any given part of the day, of course, like these guys will, I'm sure, between Paddington, wherever they are. So yeah, it makes sense. And I think on the back of that, you mentioned payrolls coming up, and obviously the HR side you're moving into. What have you got any other future plans for workforce.com?
Yeah. Yes.
I did there. .com. I'm behaving now.
Thank you. Well, I think that there's continual improvements, like the boring or less imaginative stuff is to keep listening and to keep iterating on the schedule. Like, how can we continue to improve scheduling? That's going to continue to.
Will AI play a big part in that then, do you think? I mean, I'm asking layman's questions.
I think it will. I mean, we already changed our approach a little while ago to allow people to build off historical and to just try and make it easier for those small and medium enterprises to have a solution that didn't require a head office team inputting data streams, inputting weather and sales data. So helping more people adopt that is definitely part of what we're going to continue to focus on. Shortening the payroll cycle and just confronting that payroll issue and transparency. Well, I think it's really important, and at the moment, partnering with people like WageStream is one way of people solving that.
But they really smashed it up, didn't they, when they arrived, when they first came out? Probably 2019, something like that, 2018. They were. I did a panel for them ages ago, but yeah, it was just really like employees were like, wow, like we can access our own cash.
And that's again, the fact that that's even a problem in the first place is a product of the payroll industry being so stale and a legacy for them charging per pay run.
Yeah.
So employers run pay runs monthly rather than weekly because of the pricing structure of the historical industry, and
which then further impacts the employee.
And exactly, and I don't see any need for that. So I think that anyone coming into that payroll space at the moment is looking for ways to remove those barriers and make it much easier to remove these gaps. So as we come into the payroll space, we're going to tackle these things and probably upset some old legacy players.
And I mean, it would be great if the employee could select, I want to be paid this way. Like, say, I want to be paid fortnightly. My fellow waiter wants to be paid weekly because of their particular financial circumstances. I mean, I don't know how crazy that thought is, but imagine a world where you could control your own flexibility in the payment. I mean, you can almost do it with WageStream, the fact that you're taking your money when you can. But it'd be great if they could set their own frequency on payments, because that becomes. Again, for an employee, it's such a competitive advantage to be able to say to an employee, "Oh, we're hiring. How do you pay?" Whatever you need. It's mental, right? It's not mental, but it's, as you said, it can be done.
Exactly. All of these things can be done, and depending on the complexity, revolves around the local, the authority in that country.
I mean, European payroll, forget it. Germany.
And the legacy players that we're taking on. But I'm confident that there's a lot to do in the UK on that matter in payroll, and in a similar way, we're very keen to look at other ways that paperwork around the workplace is tying people down in the back office. So whether that is insurance paperwork or workforce compliance paperwork or
IDs,
anything else. So already working with Trust ID to deliver that solution, and we'll continue to go through the back office. And again, for any client that's out there listening, and if they have those back office admin solutions, those big problems, they're the things that we're working our way through, and we're keen to hear that.
I was going to say, how do you find out about that? Is it only from, you just need feedback from the ground, from customers to say, look, we spend 20 hours a week on X, can you help us? Yeah, well, we go through it ourselves with client advocates and people that we like. I mean, we have had days where we go and work for clients to find out about their business, which is a little bit of fun, and marketing gets some pretty shots about it, but it also helps you engage with those clients and find out what they're going through. So again, the team's done a day at Domino's. Our founder's been out wobbling the pizza board on the side of the road. If I talk about Nick, our head of hospitality, he did a 4-day weekend back on the tools behind the bar at a festival recently to work in with some of our clients there. So we're always really keen to think of, to engage with our clients and find out what those big things are. We've got some ideas, and we've got a suggestion board inside our product, where our product managers are always monitoring, looking for those consistent, those nuggets where you can kind of really make an impact. That's the thing, it's so hard, isn't it? Because a lot of people will feedback certain nuances, but to find that one thing that you're getting across a group of customers would be really powerful, right? We can make a change and impact lots of people rather than just one straight away. Would be great. Yeah, and the only way is to be close to your customers and to have a product team who's dedicated to doing the hard yards and trying to stitch that feedback together and find out what those consistent things are. So yeah, basically, Chris, if it's paperwork and it's in the back office, we've got a bullseye. It's fair game. Yeah. All right. Well, look, amazing. I love chatting to you. Last time I saw you was I think it was at Dojo, and we were having a lunchtime event, and you already had a beer in your hand. So not painting you in a certain light, but there you go. Lunch. You guys do lunches very late. Yeah. And what does the rest of the day look like for you? Are you in London all day, or? Yeah. I'll be heading back into the office. Our offices are in Shoreditch, just across town. So again, for any partners or clients that are listening, happy to have people stop in, and we'll have one of those lunchtime beers that Chris is referring to. And you can get Rod at workforce.com, or you can find, I'm sure there's some kind of funny button they can click somewhere on your website that says get support or get help. Yeah, absolutely. Or my email is just rod@workforce.com, so that's easy. It's a brave one. And also, I guess people can find you on LinkedIn and have a chat to you if they wish. Yeah, absolutely. Find pictures of me going down the slide at Brewdog or anything else. All right, look, good. Thank you, Rod. Appreciate you coming in. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you all next week. That was Rod from Workforce. Say bye-bye, Rod. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.